Risk management. In multiple domains, we have seen risk management. We've seen threats, vulnerabilities. Can those threats exploit those vulnerabilities? Likelihood of it happening, giving rise to the amount of risk that you have. So we want to identify our threats. We want to identify those vulnerabilities, identify the likelihood of it being exploited, do an analysis to the amount of damage that will occur, our single loss expectancy, and I think you're going to remember that from the third domain. We want to know how often it occurs, the annual rate of occurrence. We want to figure out our annual loss expectancy, and then we want to do things to minimize the amount of loss we have. We're going to implement controls. These are going to be safeguards to reduce the annual rate of occurrence. There are going to be countermeasures to reduce the exposure factor, to reduce down the SLE. We're going to seek to avoid risk wherever possible. Remember, avoidance is not its own control, rather it's a form of mitigation. We don't release this thing, we accept the risk of the old version. We want to minimize. This is mitigation still. We put in firewalls, we put in access control lists, we put in antivirus software, we limit activities that people can take to help reduce risk. You can never completely eliminate risk. I know you have elimination on this slide. You can't eliminate risk. Doesn't happen. But we can minimize it down to an acceptable level. So we can assume risk. That's acceptance. We can avoid risk. That's mitigation. We can transfer risk. We can assign it. Risk transfer, risk assignment, usually an insurance company or an indemnification agreement. Third party that we contract out to, they're going to indemnify us against them making a mistake. Or they'll take out insurance in case they make a mistake to pay us. Risk could be retained at an acceptable level. The residual risk is your acceptable risk. That's an allowable amount. We want to make sure those third parties, contractual agreements are in place to reduce risk to an acceptable level so that we are not assuming any greater liability than we would otherwise be willing to.